I'd like to call this budget hearing in order. This is public participation. So if you want to speak, you're welcome to do so. Just ask when you just raise your hand, be acknowledged, state your name and address for the record. For that, I'll ask if anyone would like to speak.
It's gonna be the first one that you put at the station. Oh,
Carl, you put your hand up.
good evening. Elizabeth McGuire, 711 Canyon Ridge. I actually don't have any suggestions for you tonight on where we should cut, because I voted in favor of the budget twice, because I thought it was a responsible budget, and I still do. I've only lived in East Windsor for a couple of years, but my observation is that there is a vocal minority who obviously became the majority when voting on this town budget. Many of those same people influence others, who, by the way, spread this information on Facebook. They appear to be motivated not by what is good for East Windsor and its residents, but by petty partisan politics. My observation. They may say they care about the town. The towns have to grow, and the reasonable, responsible increases in the original budget were a way to move the town forward. If you cut services or you don't adequately fund services that are attractive to young families, then you are doing a disservice to young families and the people who live here and who might consider moving here. Town budgets are not just a bunch of numbers. They represent people. They represent a quality of life for the people who live here. Towns have to grow. They have to move forward to be dynamic places where people want to live. And if they don't grow, they become stagnant and they become unattractive to families and to businesses as well. So I'm sorry that you are in this position, that you have to make further cuts. I hope those cuts don't damage the town. And just lastly, I know that you are all very dedicated to what you do. And I want to thank you for the many, many, many volunteer hours that you have put in going over this budget, have spent working on this budget, because you obviously care about the people of this community. You are elected officials, but you don't get paid. So you're here because you love the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? One second. Chief? Doesn't matter. Yep, go ahead.
He nominated me to go. Yeah. Bob Light from 80 Rye Street, Broadbrick section, East Windsor. Some of you would be happy that I lost my voice calling the cadence in Memorial Day Parade. But you know, there isn't too much more to be said. At the meeting after the first referendum, it's only two people spoke up. P.T. Eichel, the That's Rand Stanley. Their statements are on the record. They were very succinct, to the point, exactly where to cut, what not to cut. I agreed with it then. Another big group of people showed up, voiced their opinion, and I think their opinions were overwhelmingly cut the budget, the general budget side, down on the education side. I agree with that. I still do. You know, you guys are in a kind of a thankless, payless job, but it's one that you wanted to run for. You volunteered for this position. I wouldn't want it. I really wouldn't, especially at this time of year. It's not a personality contest and a thing to take personal, but it's a real simple thing in my matter, and it's simple math. You had a lot of help from the audience last time around and where to cut and where not to cut. And I think you ought to listen to it this time, because unfortunately it was only 111 vote difference for the no's. It was a poor turnout, which is good in my opinion. But if it gets voted no again, everybody gets hurt. Where the ed gets hurt, police department, the public safety that we spoke so highly of, gets hurt, because in case of the police commission budget for the police department, that was only a 1% increase. So think about it. The onus is on you if it goes down again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith Agloff, 125 Depot Street in Broadbrook. As you know, I'm on the Board of Selectmen. I'm an unaffiliated voter. I'm not partisan. I joined the Board of Selectmen to provide a perspective, which was around fiscal responsibility and look carefully at the budget. And this year I looked thoroughly at the entire budget and I presented recommendations when our time came. And I came to you and I told you what I thought, and I still feel the same way. I don't think the Board of Education budget is proper. I think it should be preserved. I had a lot of issues on the town side. I want to address two issues. At your last meeting, during the attorney fee discussion, you were shown the pie chart, and on that pie chart, I was singled out, and another member of the public, Mr. Sepitelli, was singled out. I want to let you know I've not sued the town of East Windsor. I filed an SEC complaint back in 23, which was upheld as a violation. I represented Lynn Stanley and her FOIA complaint was upheld and found to be a violation. And I represented a resident in the town against the town that was paid for by Kerma. So none of that was paid for. That wasn't paid by the town attorney. Likewise, Mr. Sepitelli's planning and zoning appeals were lawful, well within his rights. And publicly labeling these as a nuisance not only misrepresents the facts, but also fosters an atmosphere of intimidation that distracts from your board's financial responsibilities. Equally troubling is the ongoing inconsistency surrounding the $500,000 excess allocated in the debt service line. In earlier meetings at the Board of Selectmen and in the printed materials that we've all received as part of the budget, the finance director described this $500,000 of excess money as a cushion for future debt service. Specifically, it said, if you read your budget book, it says it's for future projects like elementary school projects and public building projects. And it says it's for the principal and interest payments on bonds. And then after all of that, and after we went over this at the Board of Selectmen, and after I came before you and I told you what was told to me and what's the budget book, the rationale shifted. And the finance director said the money was also intended to cover potential employee compensation liabilities should staff separate from service. And this new justification that appeared out of nowhere and had never been presented before as a justification for the extra $500,000 contradicts the prior explanations. As you know, the debt service is $450,000 of actual debt service for principal and interest. And the budget is over $950,000. There's an extra $500,000 sitting in there. We have separate line items for employee compensation. There's a budget for separation expenses. And to just tell you that that money is supposed to be used for separation expenses, for compensation, when there's no anticipated separation expenses and there's other items, I think is a complete contradiction to the explanations. And it delegitimizes what I told you I knew from what I was told at the Board of Selectmen meeting and what the budget said. And I don't think it's wrong. I think it's wrong to try to delegitimize something that is legitimate. And I'm trying to bring you accurate information and bring it out to the public. Beyond the inconsistency itself, maintaining this $500,000 cushion creates a second concern. During the fiscal year, these funds can be repurposed for other appropriations without board approval. In effect, the town redirects this money. And one of your members said, we know what this money is used for. I'm not going to single that person out. But when it came up, said, we know what this money is used for. This money has used for appropriations during the year. Should go to a town meeting. We're not going to get into that tonight. But let's not pretend that this $500,000 is for another purpose. It's used for special appropriations. It's a cushion. And I recommended we take this out of the budget to make it palatable for the voters so we can get a budget that passes. Now, so I'm respectfully requesting that the Board of Finance, first of all, discourage future public presentations that single out residents or elected officials in a misleading or disparaging manner. I spoke up that night. I said something. I apologize. It was out of order. I said it from the back, but it was directed at me. My name's on that piece of paper. And you were told that I was creating nuisance litigation for the town, which is completely false. It's highly offensive. And for somebody, a public official, to do that and to take advantage of you sitting there doing that, I found to be really disturbing. I'm asking you not to allow that to happen in the future. And second, I'm asking you to seek a clear documented explanation for the full purpose of the $500,000 debt service allocation, extra money. Ask what specifically is planned for this budget cycle? Who is leaving? How much money is expected to be used from that? Because just to be given the last minute, you have to be employee compensation. Having the budget book, it's not explanation, just to pull it out of your hat and to have you rely on that, I think is wrong. And we need to safeguard to prevent mid-year transfers that don't have voter approval. Transparent, consistent budgeting, and respectful discourse will strengthen our community's confidence in this process and ensure that fiscal decisions really reflect the public interest. I appreciate your service. I know how hard it is for everything you're doing. I don't fault any of your positions because you're doing the job that you're elected to do, and you come in with an idea of what you want to do in your positions, and you have every right to do that. And I'm not faulting any of you for following through on what you believe is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Agree?
Hey, Farmer, for the South Water Street. I'm actually wasn't planning on talking tonight. You have a difficult job. I sat on a seat and this is the hardest thing of the entire season. And I'm sorry, you actually have me for sure. Relative to the debt service conversation that was just had. Way back, 2007, I think it was, when I was the chairman of the Board of Finance. We had a situation where a longtime employee of the town decided to retire for whatever reasons and had worked here for a number of years and had accumulated a tremendous amount of earned time, which people are entitled to through contracts. We had no money to pay close to $200,000. We had no money. It wasn't, but it was nowhere. We took care of it. I don't remember the distinct details of it, but relative to our long-term liability, if you look at the audit from last year, I believe it's page 41, there's an entire section on our long-term liability. It includes our debt service, principal, our interest, and uncompensated absences, which is $511,000 of money that we owe as a debt to our employees who have earned their time. Now, no one knows exactly when anybody's going to come in and retire. They don't have to tell you. They can, God forbid, they should get sick and they need to go. It's in the audit. Long-term liability includes money to pay bills. You can take it out. But if 3 people who have been here for 25 plus years decide they're leaving, they come and they knock on the door and they say, I want my money. We didn't budget for it. How are we paying for it? We go to a town meeting for an added appropriation. If people get angry and say, whoa, I'm not getting paid $25,000 or $80,000. I'm not voting for that. I think it's voted no. Then what happens? We end up in lawsuits. We end up in the state of Connecticut labor issue. So I don't know what conversations were had with anybody individually. If you look at the audit from our auditor, it clearly says it's one of our long-term liabilities. You can take it out. And if it happens, we figure out how to pay for it. So the idea that it was created or it's not true, it's a fallacy, it was formulated, is not correct. It's a debt that we owe to our employee. And when they ask for it, we need to have the money to pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Susan Taylor, Hartford, Connecticut. We are speaking as a resident, but be open and transparent. They also sit on the board of selectmen. along with Jason House, Darren, Alan Baker, and Katie Aguilar. During the budget process, the board did our due diligence and as part of the position, trying to make sure that everybody in the community was being treated equally and fairly. And I believe the budget that was put forth that I agree with as a resident and that I agree with as a board member was done in good faith. I want to comment on a couple of things that other speakers have spoken about. Mr. Lang has spoken about, great job you guys are all doing, and I agree with that. Until I read Facebook. And it's very discouraging to me and upsetting to me, the derogatory and negative comments that are being put forth on the board of selectmen minus Keith Yabeloff. Words out of documents that are out there that are being presented. Keith doesn't have to agree to the other post-employment benefits, but if you look at state statute, you look at the law that came into place, you're required by law to cover your other post-employment benefits. And that's the way you do it. And if you take it out, everything Maureen says will be accurate. You won't be able to cover it. I too sat on the board of finance back then when we had those three individuals that came up with compound. Nobody knew anything about and had to be compensated for it because they did work those hours that were comp, and they just surfaced when they decided to retire. I asked you to go back years ago when budgets were being padded. I hear that word padded. I can honestly stand here along with Noreen Farmer and say, we looked at those budgets back then, and anything that had any inkling of being padded was questioned and re-questioned and removed. If we weren't satisfied with those answers. Noreen spent hours on the police department budget going through page by page by page on overtime, outside services that we were doing with police officers and private duty to make sure that money was being collected. And that philosophy has continued on through the years where you look at it. You can say there's a job that's being done, and we'll just say that we're putting a school in the parking lot in the back. You're going to hire an engineer to give you the best effort, cost that you can. You always know you're going to run into an overrun. You know you might run into some problems. If they want to call that padding, but you added a few extra dollars to the budget to safeguard yourself for that project, so be it. If there's money left over in that project, that money is being utilized properly. There's nothing underhanded. There's nothing against the charter that's been put out there that we're not following it. We are following the charter. If there's money in a job that gets transferred from that job that didn't get completed, gets put back into the funding. If we have a project that's been approved on the capital improvement plan, and we have the money to fund it with that leftover funds, we absolutely have done that and would. But it absolutely continued, absolutely. You utilize what you have without increasing taxpayer money, because at some point that job was going to be done anyways, but it was going to be done at a cost to the town. They say politics doesn't take a role in it. I don't know what takes a role in it, but there is a group that's out there that's misleading on Facebook. Derogatory and comments that being said about people that are volunteering their time. They cost me money and others to sit on that board. He stands here tonight and says we don't want to point fingers. We don't want to have allowed anyone to say anything negatively. But I read it every day from the same individuals, including Keith, degrading the board of selectmen at every chance he gets. That's politicking from day one, and that needs to stop. I encourage you people, put forth the budget the way it is. Let it fail. Go with the 2%, because that's what they want anyways, and they put that out there today. An individual that has a group of people that are following that. Until we get rid of the town attorney, which the budget has nothing to do with the town attorney. You can reduce all the money you want in the attorney fee bill. At the end of the day, there's going to be a lawsuit that's going to come that's got to get paid with your life. You know, there's going to be a freedom of information that's going to come through. There's going to be charges against the board that's going to come through. They're going to need attorney to address. That's part of the business. This town has moved more quickly forward with our police department looking at putting in a new radio system that's probably 25 years overdue. And before somebody is harmed or we don't get to a call in time, that radio system has to be put into effect. we're looking at schools to be built. That's a part of that 500,000. That other post-employment been mandatory by law, it's part of the thing. Radio system is part of that money. We can go on and on and on. But if we're gonna bond for anything future in this town, and thank God we have a first selectman that has been willing, and a police department that has been willing to do grants out there. Every opportunity they have to do something that we know the town can't afford, and go out there, take their time. Because their job is not an 8-hour-a-day job. The first selectman's office, all of them put in more hours than need be, and so doesn't the police department with no pay to the town. Because they care about what they're doing in this town. So I encourage you, do what you have to do as a board so you can look at yourself in the mirror. But know there's a lot of misinformation out there. Read our minutes if you're unsure of why we make decisions. We can try until we're blue in the face explaining to some people how the process works, and they're not going to believe anything we say because they're in campaign mode or they're in defense mode because they're not happy about something that was done 4 years ago. Good, bad, or indifference, and they hold a grudge. And if you look at most of those people that are out there, they all had it on purpose, and they're taking everything that's being said and they're twisting it around to fit their purpose. And those that don't know are taking them at face value, which is sad. So I encourage you guys to do what you have to do, put the budget forward. And at the end of the day, whatever happens, it's going to be a disservice to anybody. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
My name is Tom Munsell, 10 Aspen Drive, Broadbrook. First of all, thank everybody up here for all that you've done, continue to do. Thank everybody here for audience participation and participating in the democracy. My way of background, I read a public to my class. I kind of get finance, I get numbers. As I look at the numbers that I see, I'm not sure what's behind them, what all the detail is. I keep trying to look it up and I'm not necessarily seeing that. So I would just urge us, and I know apparently there's an audit report, and I go through that, I have questions, but I would just urge the town to be as transparent on numbers as possible. I totally agree with the woman that just spoke about accumulated liabilities for severance or hours due when somebody retires, parts or whatever. And I would just think from a FASB accounting standards board perspective that there's a proper place to put those numbers. And those should be reflected in a human resources line item in the budget as a potential liability and shouldn't be represented in interest on debt. Okay, it just strikes me that's maybe you got the right number, but I don't think it's in the correct bucket. Okay, so I'm working and spending a lot of time taking care of my wife who's not well, and I don't have the time to come in here and help everybody. But I would just urge everybody to be as transparent as we can if possible with the numbers. And not to deride people who are asking questions. I do agree, and I think one of the reasons that the town gets a sale is because people feel like there's wax paper between them and the numbers. And they don't like to feel like that. So without knowing any more, they start to assail numbers and maybe people. And that shouldn't happen. They shouldn't do that, one, but two, let's not enable that behavior by not being transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So Matthew Carl, Chief of Police, near School Street. About a little over a week ago, the deputy chief stood up here and he explained exactly what the police department is doing, what we're trying to do, and it's been my philosophy. It's also his since we came here. You have to know where you came from, what you're doing, and where you're going. Our plan is where we're going. So we looked at this, and I just want to add one thing. When we did the budget this year, it was very mindful. For the first time, and I've been part of the budgets for quite a few years, so coming up on my 29 years, and not all of them was budgets, but I did watch. This year, the Board of Finance put something out that said, you know what, we want people to be reasonable. We didn't set a 2% limit like you have in the past or any type of other things. So my staff got together and we wanted to talk about what's reasonable, right? We understood a couple of factors. One, we're going to put in a radio system. That is circa 2003. It's garbage. It's just about dead. The new one's about $11 million. Not going to lie to you, it's $11 million. We went out and we got a bond for $8 million of that to reduce that. We coupled with another town to do the best we can. But we know that that's coming up this year. It has to because of radio system and time. So we have to do that. We also know that this was going to be the year that people were going to feel the re-eval. I know what the re-eval feels because my town went through it too. Every town has to go through it and it is what it is. Nothing we can do about that. So what was reasonable? Reasonable we put forward was 1%. Of that 1%, and truly it would be a little bit higher if 30 of my 38 employees did not have or were under contract, which they're not. So salaries have to be built in that, but we can't budget what we don't know. So if you look at that and you take out step raises, which are collective bargaining raises for our employees, and you take out the salaries of the 6 dispatchers that are under contract, we went up on our budget $21,000 for operation. That's $21,000 in change for 365 days, 4 hours, feels like 25 hours, 4 hours a day. And that's training, that's equipment, that's all the supplies, that's everything you can think of that would take to run that place, absent salaries. Benefits are carried by the Board of Selectmen, but I think that's reasonable. And I know every department head would stand up here and tell you how important their department is. And I can tell you that we're doing the work moving forward. We did 21,000 calls for service last year, 21,000. Most of those, a lot of those were officer self-initiated. And because of that, we've just about gotten rid of burglaries, just about gotten rid of stolen cars, just about gotten rid of larcenies. Right? We're doing it, we're doing it. One team, one fight. And I know it's terrible to be where you guys are. I don't agree that we try to push this off and let it fail to 2% because we do have the largest budget on the town side, and we will take a hit at 2%. And that hit will be violence. We will lose officers. There's no other way around it. And the work that we're doing will suffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Once? Yes. I didn't read it.
I'm on board with it, because I know that I am speaking at schools that are here in town. Just saying to what the police was saying, and the reality is too, for a Board of Ed budget, it goes to 2%. It's a lot. So it's $1.2 million out of what we had asked for the budget. A lot. It's a lot of people that will probably lose jobs. They're trying. Students will live out, in the last 3-4 years. People have been supported, and it shows that they've been supported. Our test scores have gone up. The music department is amazing. Children have gained Spanish classes so that they learn language now, which they had lost. We were able to kind of build back up things that we lost over lots of years of not being supported. So it would be devastating to lose this income again. And I don't want to be in your shoes. I volunteer lots of hours for other things here, so I understand it. I just hope you guys are in a tough situation. I hope that some people in the community that are making against some of the things that are in the budget can realize that it's maybe about the greater good, not about every little line item in there, but you're not gonna make everybody happy. Like, you're not gonna make everybody happy on whatever you decide. I know going through the budget that there's no extra frills in there. There's nothing added in there. I think the initial budget actually was reducing positions as it was already, and that was big consolidating and trying to be responsible. I couldn't sleep last night. I was just very upset about it because it bothers me as someone that has children in the school system. I know the potential that is here. I know the amazing staff, the people that are in our school system. This is a great town. It's a great community of people. I just wish that we could get it out there more to people, that solution is, but I really hope that there's not a lot taken out of that budget, and I don't know where you're gonna get the money from that you need to take out or don't need to take out, but just we can keep to see us go backwards, and that's what this feels like. This feels like where we were years ago when we were making progress. And I feel like right now we're going back to that place, and I don't know why, because we've made a lot of progress in the last few years. With support of people in town. I don't know where that shift has changed to, but I just don't want it to go back to where we were when we were constantly saying. It's not good for the community, it's just not for our community to be going backwards. So I just hope that you'll consider that. 2% will be detrimental to the schools as much as it would be detrimental, it sounds like, to our police department, and it just won't be great for anybody, so. I appreciate you guys listening to me. I wish you guys luck with whatever decisions you have to make.
Thank you. Good evening, Bill Towers, 14 Maple Avenue, Crawbrook. View the job that you guys have for the budget. I'll tell you 5% is too much. Voted no the first time. I have kids in the school, you know, I support public service, I support the police. You guys came back with still over 5. I voted no again. If you don't put a sustainable budget forward that town of East Windsor can pay for, you know, it's gonna fail, it's gonna go to 2%. Now, what is the magic number? Is it 4? Is it 3? Not really sure what it is, but at 5, it's too much. A lot of people can't afford it. I lost one of my jobs, so things are tight for me. But you know, I really support the police department, Board of Education, all public service. It's gotta come from somewhere. Please don't present another budget that's close to 5, because it's gonna fail and it'll 2. Thank you. Yes.
I already. You want to echo everyone else, thank you very much. Gary, I do want to comment, but she said $21,000. It's an increase. That equates to $403.84 a week. Additional to run a whole police department. I don't know why anyone would cut that. I know what they've done. I know what they do. I did the police academy, Citizens Police Academy. I was amazed at what they do. I never ever imagined, and I've grown up in town. I've been here for 55 years. Never imagined. I remember the police department being in that little tiny house. And where they are now, they need to, please do not cut anything else. The Board of Education budget, when I was in middle school, we had every sport field hockey for the girls. I don't think anybody remembers field hockey anymore. I graduated in 1983. I had more available to me then than my kids do now. I am raising child 4 and 5. My older children graduated, they're in the grades. I have 17 and 16-year-olds. And they were in middle school a year back. They were just introducing sports when they were cut years ago. It's hard to get that for this cut. And I've seen it. And if you continue to cut, you're not going to get families in town. You can't offer what surrounding towns, but what the surrounding towns are offering their students. Ellington, which surrounds us, has everything. Swimming, cheerleading, football. We do co-ops. We can't even provide that to our own students. We have to do co-ops with our surrounding towns. Please do not cut from the education budget. Like Carrie just said, even though 2%, we're going to lose not just teachers, when it's not just teachers. Teachers are not just anything, they're everything. But we don't have extracurricular anything to our students. We're not developing well-rounded individuals, well-rounded adults. We're graduating kids who
and read from a book, and that is it. We're putting out adults that are not well-rounded, not contributing to society as we should. And that starts with cutting sports, cutting extracurricular activities. And by cutting the budget, that's what is, you're giving to society, not well-rounded individuals. I'm urging and pleading that you do not cut from these budgets that help our future and the safety of what is going on today. Thank you for listening, please.
Thanks. Anybody else?
The lowest 44 Melrose Road, Broad. President of East Windsor for 89 years. I went to school up here, grades 1 through 9, 1 through 8. One teacher in the classroom, 30 kids in a student in a room. Had a great education. Went on to high school. Went on to valedictorian, class president. Went on to college, engineering degree. So I got a great education in town here. And I didn't need 2 or 3 teachers in a room to supervise me. That one teacher did all that she had to do. She supervises. There was 8 teachers in that class. The 8th grade teacher was also principal. So that means there was just 8 people in that school teaching all the kids. This education budget is way over budgeted. Board of Finance did nothing about reducing it. Purchase services, 31% increase. 2 lines down, another 10% purchase services. What are these? There's miscellaneous, another increase. What are we doing? Close the middle school. We got less students up there. We got 3 months to do it before next school year. Move to the 5th grade to grammar school, 6th, 7th, and 8th to the high school. We don't want to pay for a school that we're not using all the way. That school should be closed. We close it right after this school year.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing that, I will call the budget public hearing to end, whatever the proper term is. I will just give the board a 5-minute recess to get the thought together before we start our delivery. We'll resume in